We are hereby declaring the commencement of a nationwide industrial action, a nationwide strike, effective from Monday, June 3rd, 2024. And this strike shall be indefinite. And this strike shall be on until we have a new national minimum wage, until government is serious and also the tariff increment in electricity is reversed. We are united on this. We believe that this is the way forward. We believe this is the time, as we have done over the years, to consistently stand with the working class of Nigeria, because they have been battered and they have been downtrodden the way it has been from May 29th till date.
Welcome back, everyone. My people, there is wahala everywhere in Nigeria. The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, have declared a nationwide strike beginning from Monday, June 3rd, 2024, over the Nigeria government's inability to agree on the new minimum wage. The president of the TUC announced the strike at the joint news conference with the leadership of NLC in Abuja on Friday. So according to the labor leaders, the decision followed the expiration of the earlier request to the federal government to conclude all the negotiations for the new minimum wage before the end of May. Hey, my people, you guys know that since Tinubu entered into office, he had been promising and deceiving the NLC as well as TUC. Whenever they want to go on strike, you see them promising them, doing this, petting them. At the end of the day, these people will not call off the strike. And Nigerians don't even know what is happening, that these people, they are even under pressure. Like, in fact, they are under threat, under Tinubu administration. So most of the time, you see them calling off a strike. It's not in a clear eyes, my people. This time around, they have come out that they're going to declare nationwide strike on Monday. Now, people are asking, are they going to carry out this action? What they have just said now, is it going to happen from Monday? Or on Monday, we are going to be hearing another story, because we don't tire already. We don't even have any confidence in an NLC and the TUC. Because of most of the time, they call off the strike. So Nigerians, they're even tired. They don't even have confidence. They don't even believe that this nationwide strike is going to take place on Monday. So my people, make we just sit down, they look. And this is what National Assembly, they're supposed to be discussing, not to bring back the old national anthem that was not going to do anything in our life. My people, Nigerians are suffering. Like, what is 60,000 naira minimum wage? What is it going to buy? Like, how much is bag of rice in Nigeria right now? Like a family of 5 or a family of 3. Like, how can 60,000 sustain them in a month? Like, how is it possible, my people? While everything in the market is very, very expensive right now, and Nigeria government, they don't care. What they're after, fighting, debating, is how to bring back national item that will not even add any value in the life of Nigerians. My people, like, there is wahala. Make we sit down, they look to see if truly that this strike is going to take place on Monday. My people, let me allow you guys to watch the full video to hear what the president of TUC said, the reason why they are going on strike this coming Monday.
Thank you for coming on today. So it's almost as if from the day one, when this government came into being, Labour were already on their toes after that announcement. And so you had to fold your sleeves. And only last week, about this week, this negotiation about the minimum wage has been going back and forth. Nigerians are wondering, where do we go from here? So where are we now with that negotiation with government?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Good evening, Chamberlain, Maukbe, and good evening, Nigerians. Yes, the last meeting we held on this was actually 2 days ago. So we had, yesterday actually, we had an engagement with them, and in that engagement, they've offered 60,000 naira as the minimum wage. So we asked them clearly that they should give us a breakdown of how a man, even a single man that is working, probably, we use Abuja, so someone working here, for example, and he lives in Yaya, lives in Lugbe, how will that person get to work? So how much is would that person spend on transport? How much will the person spend on food? How much will be the cost on housing? So they should give us the breakdown, because all the summary that we did, we had the breakdown of what we think will work. Because today, Chamberlain, I was listening to Bismarck Rewanding earlier. You knew where we are today. This is one of the most difficult periods we've faced in Nigeria for a very long time. Today, we could see where our headline inflation is today compared to where we were about a year ago. Today, we could see where the food inflation, for example, is. I love the slide when he brought about the food, the cost of food today. The reality, what is the cost of tomatoes? What is the cost of beans? The cost of rice? So these are all the arguments that we place before government in that meeting. We give them the statistics. This is where we are. We can even go to the market. If you don't believe us, let's go to the market and do these findings. And again, which is much more important, is the value of 60,000 naira. Can you equate the value of 60,000 naira today to what 11,000 naira was in 2011 and to what 30,000 naira was in 2019? Clearly is a no. So for us, that 60,000 naira, we rejected it, because 60,000 naira is equivalent to $40, and that is a far cry in where we think we should be regarding minimum wage.
So is that 60,000 naira, that's supposed to be what, basic you can give to
everything?
Everything.
So the law that sets minimum wage, if you check the last act of 2019, it said the total money that you earn, so both your allowances, everything will be 60,000 naira. Because during the conversation and during the meeting, federal government did a survey. There was a survey did by the committee, but led by the Minister of Finance. So in that survey, it was clear that some states will not pay minimum wage. And one of those states was actually Anambra State. So when he was confronted, so when they finally came up, they said no, but that both salary and allowances is what you will add. When we went to the act, what the act was really talking about was your total pay in a month. So it is not basic salary, but the full emolument.
Is Anambra paying the 30,000 naira now?
No, for us, from what the survey, the findings of the survey, Anambra is one of those states that are not paying minimum wage. But Professor Soludo, the governor of Anambra, disputed that he's paying minimum wage. But from the findings of the data and the survey that was done, it was clearly shown that Anambra State is one of the 5 states or thereabout that are not paying minimum wage as of today.
So the conversation then is, there is now that part of, determining what exactly is desirable, what exactly it is that we believe should be sufficient for the least paid worker, but be it in government or the private sector, and the capacity of those who are supposed to pay this money to pay. If today, 30,000 naira, meager as it is, and in spite of increased revenue allocation to the state governments, some states are still not making 30,000 naira available to their least paid workers. What is the guarantee that with what Labour is asking, 497,000 naira, that is going to happen?
Yes, Maokwe, what we have discovered is this, that the states that are not paying minimum wage, it is not because they cannot afford to pay. Because you have some states, if you look at FAC allocation, look at internal generated revenue. So imagine a state like Anambra, imagine a hub like Onitsha, imagine a hub like Inewi. So these are states that literally they should be able to pay. So not that they don't have the resources to pay, but it is the willingness to pay. That is actually the challenge. And just what you have said. Okay, look at a time when President Muhammadu Buhari gave some money to states to pay minimum wage, to pay workers that they were owing. A state like Kogi State, they refused to pay. Few other states refuse to pay. So not that they don't have the resources to pay, but it's actually the willpower to do. Maokwe, if you look at today, look at FAC allocation, just as you have alluded to, it has gone up. So let's assume a state that could not pay, let's say about 2 years ago, today, the FAC allocation has gone up by close to 100%. At the time, they were sharing about 400 to 500 billion naira per month. But today, they share over 1.2 billion naira, over 1.2 trillion naira per month. Yeah. So if you check that, you could see that percentage increment. So why are they not paying? It's just simply because they are not ready to pay. But on the part of Labour, we have resolved that when we arrive at this new minimum wage, Any state that refuses to comply to that new minimum wage, we are going to shut them down. And we are very serious about this because they have the ability to pay, just that they don't want to pay.
How quickly do you think that, you'll be able to arrive at this? Because if you're still at 497,000, which we all know is quite steep, and it's not just government you're asking to pay this, it's also going to be affecting the private sector. It's going to affect the ability of a lot of people in the private sector to pay. You listen to Mr. Rewane, who says that, that could also see people losing their jobs if Labour is insistent that will be the minimum wage. How quickly do you think that, that should come on board, given that we have been at this since last year?
Yeah, we actually started, the committee was inaugurated January 30th. But we have lost a lot of time because we actually said we'll complete this before May 1st. But here we are entering June. But if you remember, when we submitted our charter of demand, it was 615,000. And when I granted interview to your studio, what we said then was that this is a demand. So this is negotiation. As of today, we are in 497,000 naira. Are we going to stay there? That government must pay us 497,000 naira? The answer is a no. The same way, we submitted 615 because when you are negotiating, you must have room to move. You must have headroom to negotiate. We know what we think the right minimum wage should be. And this, like what I have said, when 18,000 naira was negotiated in 2011, the value of 18,000 naira as at then was about $125. So if you take $125 today, just multiply $125 by 1,500, you're going to see that it's going to be somewhere around 200,000 naira. So what we are looking at is not the volume, but what we are looking at is the value. So 60,000 naira today, giving us $40 is a far cry. A country like Angola that has about 1 million civil servants in Angola, they just moved their minimum wage to $120. And Angola is not even the best case when you talk about minimum wage in Africa. You have Libya, you have Seychelles, you have Morocco, and the like that are paying over $300 as a minimum wage. So for us, all we are pushing is that, we reduced from 497 to 494. But are we going to dwell and stay there? The answer is a no. It is a negotiation and a give and take. And you remember, we issue an ultimatum May 1st. And that ultimatum still subsists. That by May 31st, if government refuses to do the needful, then we can no longer guarantee industrial action. And it still subsists because again, we had NEC within this period, and the NEC gave us a charging to ensure that we have the new minimum wage by May 31.
So that's the needful. You must get to that minimum wage. Not that they say, well, you're close to your possible agreement area.
No, we have to agree by May 31st. If we don't agree by May 31st, then from June 1, we can no longer guarantee industrial peace because our members are suffering. Today, Nigerians are suffering.
Exactly.
Workers are suffering.
Exactly. So when I did say that we've been at this since last year, is the fact that the effect of the removal of subsidy had been felt since last year.
Absolutely.
Immediately, fuel subsidy was taken away. We started to see the prices of petrol and everything else go up. Even now, electricity, has also shot beyond the roof.
True.
So when you look at how long this has taken, if workers have survived for this long, shouldn't we get to this very quickly?
No, yes, it is. The onus is for government to conclude the conversations and be much more serious. Because
you think they are unserious?
Yes, they are very, very unserious today. Because putting 60,000 naira on the table for us, it shows some smack of unseriousness. If this conversation was taking place when fuel subsidy was still there, if the conversation was taking place in a single-digit inflation environment, if the conversation was taking place when the fundamentals was quite all right, it could have been a bit different. But if you were offering 60,000 naira, say probably April last year, then we could have said, okay, government is doing something reasonable. But offering 60,000 naira for a Nigeria of today, I think it's a smack of unseriousness. And for us in Labour, we will not accept that until government do the needful. Just as I have said, are we fixated on 494,000 naira? The answer is a no. So we know what is right, and we are going to push to get what is right for Nigerians and for our members.
What do you think government can comfortably pay?
It's not in my purview to say what government can comfortably pay, but what is in our purview is what we think we take an average Nigeria home. Like as I have said, we have historical precedents of what the minimum wage has been, both in Naira and dollar equivalent. So when we get to that point, I think we would be able to agree. We think, finally, on the issue of this minimum wage, that the government, as of today, they also know that 60,000 naira will not be able to take any Nigeria home today. They know. We have this communication with them on the table. They understand that. But the charge we are giving to them is that governance is not a tea party. Governance is not you sit down at the end of the month, you collect FAC allocation, you share. No. Governance is much more serious than this. We have the resources in Nigeria that could be turned around to improve the fortunes of this country. It's not just, you throw out policies every day. You look at this administration, when they came on board, they started dishing out policies. But when you are throwing out policies, you must look at the people that the policies are going to affect. How positive and negative it will affect them. Imagine, Chamberlain, we did flotation of Naira. At the same time, we removed fuel subsidy. It was a disaster. You don't do both at the same time. The government, what was the level of consultations that were done? And they even did this when there wasn't substantive CBN. Because if you don't have substantive CBN governors and the executives who could meet, just check how long it took for MPC to meet till they met sometime in February. Almost about 4 or 5 months, they did not meet because CBN was not properly constituted. And you floated a Naira against a CBN that was not properly constituted. And these are the people that could bring out measures, bring out the necessary monetary policies to be able to tame whatsoever effect is going to have. That is why speculators, they have fee day. That is why the bankers, they have fee days. So before you bring about any policy, there must be interrogation. There must be appraisals. You must be able to do a lot of financial simulation to know how such policies are going to affect the macro and the microeconomics of your citizens. Then you know how it will affect their pocket. But this we are never done. Do you know that if, for example, our Naira was still at 450 to $1, PMS today would have been selling for around 300 naira per liter. AGO would have been selling for around 400 naira per liter. So the real cross of it, why things has moved haywire today, it's majorly because of the flotation of Naira. I've listened to people, they talk about both flotation and unification. These are different. The parallel market, as when it was floated in June last year, the parallel market was around 600 naira plus, about 700 naira. If you are unifying, you could have brought it to 700. But you floated it without the necessary instrument to guide. So imagine today, we don't still have CBN board or the MPC properly constituted. Imagine when Naira moved to somewhere around 8,000, 7,800. It would have gone to over 3,000 Naira to $1 today. So that was an unforced error on the part of government. When you are bringing any policy, there must be deep consultation and there must be reflection and a lot of financial simulations and modeling for you to arrive at what is actually right. This was lacking last year when they floated Naira. So
would you say, rating the Tinubu administration in the last 1 year, that they haven't really thought through their policies?
True, correct. You could see a lot of inconsistency in their policy, Maukwe. You could see them. You could see our policy somersault. You come today, you bring a policy, tomorrow people shout, you take it back. No, that is not how it should be. This is government. Government should have the resources to sit down and look at all the programs and policies they ought to put in place. We have not seen this. All we have seen is policy somersault, and all we have seen is policy inconsistency. And one of the things that, in a syncline, at times, before you deploy resources of the people, there should be a lot of debate. Look, for example, the issue of the coastal line. We've had some debates on this in the labor movement. Was that the best thing to have been done today? Do you know that if you channel, what they are putting is about $10 billion, because the minister said about 14 trillion naira or thereabout. That's about $10 billion. If you sit down and develop a program and deconstruct your power systems, and you look at the north, wind energy, solar energy, this hydro energy, you deconstruct according to the new act that was passed recently that allows states to float their respective. So if you deploy it to energy, you deploy it to power, and Nigeria is able to have even 20 hours power supply. Do you know the contribution of that to the GDP? So these are their building coastal roads. Have they done the calculation to know this money that you are deploying, how much is it going to impact your GDP? This money that you are deploying, what are the opportunity costs to it? This must be, there must be debate. Look at all this same client. When you have things like this, you do a lot of public hearing. People come and make contributions, valuable contributions. But it's not you just pick one contractor, give it the contract, and we are speaking grammar everywhere. So as a nation, we must be serious in how we formulate our policies and in how we spend our money, because resources are scarce and we must be able to deploy them to the areas that will unlock our economy, not just to throw money the way we are doing them today in Nigeria.
It's interesting that you say this, because I know that, as someone who has headed Pengasson and also now heads TUC, you have spoken in favor of the removal of fuel subsidy. But it appears that this is not how you predicted it was going to happen.
I know. If you are removing fuel, like Pengasson, like we have been consistent over the years, but the challenge that came with this was actually removing fuel subsidy and floating Naira at the same time. Like what I've said, if you have left Naira at 450, for the way it was earlier, then it could have, and you go about deregulating the downstream sector of the oil and gas industry. What would have happened was that PMS would have been standing at about 300 Naira. Nigerians could have afforded it. But the challenge was that you've allowed the Naira to devalue. People have asked, oh no, it is because of the fact that we are import-dependent nation. I've asked a question. See, between the year 2000 and 2015, our dollar devalued by less than 100%. This was about 15 years. Devalued by less than 100%. Were we not importing? What has changed? Were we producing everything here in Nigeria? No. It is because there were effective policies to manage this. Then, when Buhari administration came in, the Naira devalued by over 100% in 8 years. Then this administration, it has moved by over 200 to 300% within 1 year. So it talks about the management. Like what we said, you cannot allow these two things to happen. If you are removed for subsidy, for example, and you have allowed and you have managed the monetary policy in such a way that the Naira did not slide the way it did, what would have happened effectively is that today you could go to some fuel station, you buy 300, you go to the next one, you buy 310. Nigerians would have been able to manage that. But when you allow that flotation to happen, that is really the crux of the matter. So the mistake was that the government shouldn't have allowed that flotation to happen. And they shouldn't have made that announcement without having... it's just like you are going to war and you don't have military. What is going to happen? That was exactly what happened. You were floating Naira and there was no CBN board, there was no MP, there was literally nothing. Emefiele was in jail and there was literally nothing. And that was the root of the problem that we are facing today.
Well, we will still have 3 years because the first quarter of the Tinubu administration, I don't know why I keep saying Buhari, said that for too long. But, we have another 3 years. Mr. Rwani, who is also an economist, he admits that we're currently bleeding. He says, but next year looks better. I mean, if you take a look at the long-term projection, it does appear that things would improve. Is it an optimism you share? No,
Maupe, I listen to Bismarck Rwani, economic scholar, but a lot of us, we follow this trend as well. So this is the challenge. So next year, you are predicting inflation to be 20%, for example. You know what that is? Currently now, a bag of rice is 80,000 Naira. So if you are saying inflation with 20% next year, what you are saying is year on year, right? So we are in May 2023, a bag of rice 80,000 Naira. So by May 2024, we are in May 2024. May 2025, a bag of rice would now be 16,000, let's say 20% inflation. It will now be 16,000 Naira on top of 80,000 Naira. That will give us 96,000 Naira. So where we are today is first of all bad. So even when we are looking at next year that inflation will slow down, that inflation is going to be on top of this current reality that we have today. So it is not looking good in any way. I wish to quickly say this. You know, one of the challenges that we have faced, which was also faced in Buhari government, you see, when people that is not in government is trying to tell government the truth, most of those, the ministers and those serving the government, they will quickly come in defense. But do you know that majority of these people, after Buhari left, they started telling us the truth. Why can't we speak truth to those that are in power to make them do exactly what is right? I listened to Minister of Aviation and a lot of them, you know, saying that Nigeria Air was fraud. But you were in the Federal Executive Council meeting that passed Nigeria Air. Why can't we interrogate processes before we allow it to go? We should stop this system of doing rent seeking and just bootlicking political office holders. The ministers, the special advisors, they owe it a duty to always advise those in government, both state, federal and local government. You must advise them and you must tell them the truth. It's not when they leave, you will not start shouting, we could have done this or that. That is not how country develops. We must have statements that we want to tell power, truth to power.
Labour had a list of demands. It wasn't just about the minimum wage at the time. So what happened to all of those other demands? Because you seem fixated, or at least so far, you're talking hugely about the minimum wage.
Yes. So those demands as well. At a time, if you remember, by sometime January this year, we issued an ultimatum to government because at then they implemented just 20% of what was in that demand. Top of it was the wage award. So after issue, as at January, they've only paid, out of 6 months, they've only paid 2 months of wage award. So when we issued that ultimatum, they now quickly paid additional 4 months. So as of today, they have paid till February. But all we've told them is that no, we still have March, April, May is just ending now. So this, we consistently remind them. In the meetings we have, all these are the things we champion and we put forward to them. In that communique, they told us that by November, we're going to have CNG buses. But till today, we've not seen any of them. So all these, if you check a lot of communications and a lot of releases that we have done in the past month, you will see the catalogs of what government has not done. And that is part of the challenge that we always have, which we always put to government. Don't sign agreement. After signing agreement, you go to bed, thinking that the agreement will implement itself. So in that agreement, there are a lot of things there that has some partly implemented and a whole lot of them not implemented at all.
Well, over the years, we've seen Labour at least get to this stage, make demands of government about minimum wage. They eventually agree on something, they move on. But we see that several states don't even live up to expectation. So what happens this time? Because chances are that we could face that scenario again.
In terms of minimum wage?
Yes.
Yes. So you are very correct. You know, as of today, from the survey carried out by MBS, it was stated that 29 states today are paying not just minimum wage, but the consequential adjustment. So what most of the states are doing is that really there is no employee that is in grade level 1, step 1. That is the employee that should earn that minimum wage. But what they will not do is that when they they will just claim, okay, they are paid the minimum wage, but there's no consequential adjustment. They may add 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 across the steps and across the grade. So in reality, it becomes nothing. So the states today that are applying it the way it should be, they are 29. Then some states that are paying minimum wage, but not applying the consequential adjustment, there are about 3 or 4 states. Then those that are not paying at all are about 4 or 5 states. If you check most of these states, there have been a lot of strikes. There have been a lot of pushback. Even the 29, there were, initially it was 16. For us to move it from 16 to 29, there was a lot of industrial actions in those states. There were a lot of strike, a lot of call-out, a lot of disruption. So that was what made them to start paying 29. But today, Zamfara just released a statement that they will start paying 30,000 naira. We said, this is a joke. We are talking about a new minimum wage. Now you are not telling us that you start paying 30,000 at the 11th hour.
Well,
Chai, there's some certain things we hear that is happening in Nigeria. You don't have any other option than to laugh, honestly. We are talking about increment in the minimum wage. And then this Zamfara state, they come out and then they are saying they are going to be paying 30,000, which means they have not been paying. And it's quite unfortunate that even Anambra state is among those states that are not paying minimum wage. Soludo, this is very, very shameful. Very, very shameful, my people. Hey, like Tinubu administration na try and error. Yes, so since Tinubu entered into office, all his policies, look at where it had landed us, my people. Look at where we are today. Look at where we are. Hey, my people, this man really speaks truth to the power. Honestly, everything he said here is nothing but the truth. I pray that they will not call off this strike on Monday. So my people, that is it. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about what the president of TUC said here? And please, if today is your first time, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'm going to see you guys in my next one. Goodbye for now.